else. We've actually been there once because it's hard to get into.
And getting a reservation was real difficult, but as soon as I could get one, I actually had my phone on like an alert.
Nick, man, he's the great. Nick the Great, that's what I'm gonna call him.
He makes it look so easy, and I know it's not.
There is nothing that can absolutely just fuck over your entire night like letting the fire die, because you will never get it back. The best work that I've ever done is collaborating with other people. So I've really learned to help other people kind of focus their own ideas, and I've learned to allow other people to help me focus mine. That is something that's taken me a long time to learn, and I think that it's my greatest skill.
Capellacci?
The way that I view myself in the ecosystem of this restaurant is more as a coach or an editor than it is as a general.
You need to add not pasta water. You'll add too much salt from the pasta water. Add a little bit of stock to this. Like a splash. Drop it. That much. Keep on working it.
I used to hear all these chefs, they would always say the same thing. They'd be like, okay, you need to be the best at everything in your restaurant. You need to be the best butcher, you need to be the best at making pasta, you need to be the best baker, because everybody else, right, if they aren't there one day, then you need to be able to step in and do it better than them. And you also need to be the best at everything so that you don't rely on other people when they might not be great employees, and then you can't, break with them, whatever. I don't operate this place like that at all. I try to hire people who are better than me at things. There was a Steve Jobs quote that always stuck with me, and he said, I don't hire people so that I can tell them what to do. I hire people so they can tell me what to do. And so I think like the trying to kill my ego as much as possible has been the greatest thing that I've ever done as a chef.
The first time I went into the Antler room, I was actually out here visiting. It was during my recruitment period. It was one of the restaurants I heard we had to eat at. So I went in with my girlfriend, Paige. Obviously, I didn't know anything about Kansas City at that point, and my mistake, never judge a book by its cover. But I didn't think Kansas City had a lot in the food realm. I thought it was a cow town, a lot of steak, and boy, was I mistaken. I think the one thing that struck me most about it was that everybody was having a good time. Like the servers, the way that they worked and interacted with each other, you didn't see people like under a lot of stress or that chaotic restaurant vibe. Everybody kind of knew their role and they were playing it very well.
But it's so important, like we have to taste everything by committee here. Because like I truly believe that your palate changes day to day, depending on like if you've had a stressful morning, or like depending on what you ate the weekend before. Yeah. You don't taste things the same way. So like a lot of times in the wine world in particular, they're like, this tastes like this and this tastes like this. And it's like, well, no, it depends on how you're feeling that day. And who's tasting it. Like different, it's really crazy, but like different people will taste things different, not just because of what's happening in their lives, but as they age, just a year difference, right? I've had cooks who all of a sudden it's like, they've been with me for 2 years, and in the second year, they start liking too much salt, and we have to tamp it down. And yeah, it's just human beings. I have struggled for years trying to get to the point where, and it's unattainable, but I've struggled for years and made progress at trying to get to the point where I have the courage of my convictions. If I think that something is good, then it's good. And if I think that it's bad, then it's bad. And I have gotten far enough in that process that now I'm willing to listen to other people again. It's very funny how that works. So I cast off everybody else's criticism for so long, and now what I've realized is that's not the answer. The answer is just curating the kind of people who you do want to listen to, surrounding yourself with voices that that align with yours, but don't necessarily agree with you on anything, and trusting when they are pretty sure that you're wrong, listening to them.
I can only imagine what went through Nick's head when he woke up one day and said, I want to open another restaurant. It takes a lot of grit to be able to run two completely different concepts that are open at different times of the week, that do such different type of cuisines. I can tell Anjin is their passion project, something that they've been wanting to do for a very long time.
We got to know them just through the food
through the
scene in
through
general.
the business, and you know, I've had coffee with Nick a couple of times, and we've just got to know him through the business.
And multiple events. I mean,
Yeah.
generally we're all kind of at the same, food events in Kansas City or charity events or whatever. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. You just kind of gravitate towards food people, and conversation is easy. Like, what is going on?
You can tell that Nick right now, where Nick is in his career. I see him at the restaurant, and I just he's right in his prime. You know, he's young, he's attention to detail. I feel like sometimes I've gotten to be an old salty dog and done this for years and years, and you know, he is still right in the middle of everything, and teaching and mentoring.
Remember, you can always just pull them up and put them on the rack. You know what I'm saying? So that if you have 4 baskets here and 4 things are fired, fill 4 baskets. Once you heat this up, you're cooking with the slab. You're no longer cooking with the gas. There's no reason to have it on so much. Halfway is fine. So what you did was you just lost a step, right? Because he wanted you to add the vinegar, and instead of adding it here, you turn to keep on cooking, and then you turn back for the vinegar. If you do that, every single time we sell one of these, 30 times in a night, and it's one extra touch for no reason where you're having to move, you'll be exhausted by the end of the night. You know what I'm saying? You do that every time that you cook. So this is a section, right? Every time you're over here, you do everything that you can that has anything to do with any of these items. When you turn around, you do everything that you can that has anything to do with these items. It's good. A little bit of chili oil, and then you're done.
Yes, chef. Green hot.
So which one is which here?
This is tomato, the huckleberry, and then the rhubarb.
Took a lot to get to where I am now, and a lot of that goes to Leslie for helping me through the beginning stages of my restaurant. Actually, I would reach out to her at least once a week, asking her questions on what the hell do I do. Leslie's just a very approachable person. She has this demeanor about her that is really hard to attain in the restaurant industry. Personally, I cannot tell when she's stressed out, and I'm sure she's stressed out all the time. It's awesome to see a woman run that place and just look fucking good doing it.
The 18, yeah. It's the roasted carrots with labneh peanuts. Megan and Colby Garrelts that own Rye, we went to dinner with them before we opened, and he said, you have to choose. Do you cook for yourselves, the guests, or the reviewers? And we always said, we're choosing ourselves. So everything that we do is food that we like, food that we taste, beverages that we like.
I think when you're there, she just has a graceful presence about her. She's in the dining room, she's chatting with guests. As I think most couples do, when one's in the kitchen and one's on the floor, you have to divide and conquer, which is what we've always done. And, she definitely has that presence about her when you're in the restaurant. You feel it, you see her, and you know that she's a part of the fabric of what they do.
I think a lot about praise that I get that she deserves. I think about that a lot because like the chef is always the person, and it's a great thing that's happened in the United States and worldwide, that chefs are getting credit for what it is that they do. That's been a great change that's occurred over the last 20 years. But I feel like it's been at the expense a little bit of people in the front of the house. Employees in the front of the house at restaurants are a little bit more transient. They don't see this necessarily as their career. And she does. Like, she's a career professional. This is what she does. She's great at it. She's ambitious in the best way. And this restaurant, it would be a shadow of itself without her. Also, I would not have stuck with this if it wasn't for her at all. I like being comfortable. I pride myself on having a good work ethic, which I do. But sometimes I just want to say to hell with it if something is really difficult and just move on. And yeah, she is not that way at all. So she's kind of dragged me kicking and screaming through some of the worst parts of owning a restaurant. She is the reason this place is successful. And I'm not saying that because it's the right thing to say or it seems like the humble thing to say. It's just the truth. I mean, she has the better pedigree out of the two of us. She had more experience than I did in management when we opened this place. Just absolutely unflappable in her willingness to work as hard as possible all the time. She's the tougher of the two of us for sure. She also has the best palate in the restaurant. All of the food goes on the menu once she's tasted. I have the final say when it comes to whether I want to veto her opinion, but everyone knows that if we want to put a dish on the menu, she's the one that has to say that it's good before we actually go forward with it.
He never has thought that he is good enough or can do what he does. And I watch it every day. He's such a good leader and teacher. All our past line cooks, they all come back and they all tell him over and over again how much they learned and how much they appreciate him. And it's been just such an incredible journey. And I'm so excited for him to go from not wanting to even have an open window in a kitchen to having a restaurant where we will be fully on display. There's no hiding.
In, what was that, like 2015, I was working at a 1 Michelin star restaurant in San Francisco called Boulevard. And at that restaurant, we would do maybe 300 covers on a super busy night, which is insane for a 1 Michelin star restaurant. Like, that's, the quality and the volume usually are at odds, right? So that was the peak of my career at that point. I worked very hard. I grew a ton at that restaurant. I was around incredible cooks, the best I'd ever really worked around. I rose to the level of sous chef there. Super proud of that. When I went to Noma, I was there for about 6 months. When I went there, it was the biggest shock of my life, probably. They worked harder than I'd ever seen anyone work at anything. And cooking is not the hardest job in the world. There's a lot of people in the industry who act like it is, which always kind of pisses me off a little bit. My dad he did concrete work. That's a harder job than this is. But a lot of people in this industry, like, it's very cool to be like a martyr, like, I work so hard. And a lot of that's bullshit. It is. This is a hard job, but there's harder. There's a lot harder. When I went to Noma, though, they drove themselves in a way that made it the hardest job in the world. I mean, like, absolutely insane drive by everyone. And I was there before they'd made some changes that kind of softened up the workload for everyone. When you're an intern there, you make staff meal. And I remember there were only a certain amount of ovens, and there was a schedule. And you had to get everything you needed done within the allotted time. And, you know, there wasn't a piece of paper on the board, like up on the wall. You had to figure out by talking to everyone where you were in that order. And I remember we weren't ready for, I wasn't finished by the time that I needed to be out of the oven. So all of a sudden I'm out of the oven. I'm not going to have staff meal. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And they're like, well, why have you ran across the street to the fermentation lab and begged them to use their oven? And I hadn't. And the reason I hadn't is just because that sounds like it sucks. I don't, right? But of course that option is there. The option is there to run to a different restaurant and beg them to use, like, there's options for everything. People don't want to do it. So it depends on how much your day-to-day effort is worth to you. And at that place, the only people that worked there were people who really were driving themselves to be the best.
Well, Japanese cooking is one of the finest cuisines of cooking. You know, you have to have a serious skill set from the knife work to how they prepare their food, the types of ingredients that you have to have, and execution is the biggest thing right there in Japanese cooking. So that 180 that he's been able to do is truly amazing. It inspired me when I went to that restaurant because I know that anybody that jumps into that lane in that cuisine of cooking, you have to have major confidence in yourself.
We went to Japan in 2014, I believe, 2015, the first time. My mother had been born there on Haneda Air Force Base, which is now Haneda Airport. My grandfather was in the Air Corps. He was posted there after World War II. He joined during World War II, but he was posted there during the Korean War. They were there for several years. They didn't live on the base, they lived in the city. And my grandfather and grandmother, especially my grandfather, absolutely loved the country, loved it. It was his favorite place in the world. He loved the people, he loved the food, he loved the art. All I really knew about his experience there was these boxes and boxes full of photos, pieces of art, pieces of clothing, just a lot of pieces of his life there, their life there, were surrounding me growing up. So I always had this weird fragmented relationship with that country, and I didn't really have any context for the things that I was seeing around me in my home. Especially as a small child, I remember looking at the paintings and not really understanding where they were from or what they were about. I think a lot of chefs have this same experience when they go to Japan. They're just like, well, it's Xanadu. All the food is so good, from the vending machines all the way up to Michelin-starred restaurants. All the food is incredible. It's hard to find bad food there. You have to really try. You have to be very unlucky. The culture of the people there, people eat out a lot more often than they do here. And by eat out, I mean they also buy a lot of prepared foods and bring it home and kind of heat it up. So there's a lot more chefs there than there are here. There's a lot more restaurants. You know, people don't drive everywhere like they do here. There's still neighborhood restaurants. They're Izakaya. It's their neighborhood, like an English pub. We don't really have that in the States anymore. It's very odd. So to explain to somebody what an Izakaya is, if this was 100 years ago, I bet you it'd be a lot easier for me. I'd be like, it's your neighborhood restaurant. We don't have those anymore in the States, especially in the Midwest.
But they call it Japanese izakaya, right? And so if you don't know, what that is, think countertop. So you walk in, there is no host stand, there is no podium, but somebody's there to greet you. It's basically a long bar. And then you see this beautiful open kitchen, right? And it's not big. And what they've done, which is very smart, is instead of having this giant restaurant, we're only gonna seat 20 people at a time. You're gonna have like an hour and a half to 2 hours. And we're gonna make this beautiful small menu, but we're gonna hit everything. We're gonna do all those 20 items on our menu. We're gonna do those really well. Not only do you have your servers like right there in front of you, but right behind them, you have this small open kitchen where you can see Chef Nick and his team working.
Donnie, I would really, really get ready, man. You know how it is every day. It's gonna be like that again today. Everyone you see in front of you is gonna order at the exact same time. Order fire 2 tempura going together, cabbage, 2 skewer, 2 takoyaki. I love your speed, but just make sure that you're taking a breath. Make sure that it's all perfect, all right? 15. And then it's imported 10. Imported 10. Sweet potato to 3. 3.
Heard that. Thank you.
I can't believe it myself sometimes.
Where were you before
before this?
I was the bar manager over at the Antler room. Yeah, so I helped Nick and Leslie open that spot about 10 years ago. I mean, I was lucky enough to be there, but now the three of us own this spot. So yeah.
Amazing. I mean, it's amazing. We love it.
Well,
We
thank you
love,
so much.
Love
Thank you,
Antler.
thank you.
But this is
Well, I appreciate it.
good.
Well,
Good luck getting back in.
I know. I'm never gonna get another reservation.
Right around COVID, I lost my father, and I felt like a stranger in a lot of ways in my own life. All of a sudden, the way that I viewed everything shifted. I started to think more about how I was spending my life. I started to think more about, it's cliche, but how little time we have. And I started to think more about my family, and one of the people in my family that I never got to know was my grandfather. All of a sudden, I started making all these connections with this one word, which is an old word. Nowadays, if you see the word Anjin, it's usually used in Japan as a temple word. It's a word that means peace of mind. But the old form of the word meant a pilot or a navigator. I felt like I was searching for something in my life. When I went through such a horrible period of grief, all of a sudden I had a lot of realizations. It was pretty touch and go there for a minute, whether I was going to continue being a chef at all. I was at the point where I would say to Leslie, I would much rather be bagging groceries than doing what I'm doing. I would have to go into work every day and try to be okay for everyone. And you know, I was honest with a lot of members of the staff. I kind of tried to explain to them that I wasn't okay, that I was having a really hard time. The problem is, if you're a leader, people are going to learn through your action more than through your words. So it's not enough for me to just say, I know how you're supposed to be doing X, Y, or Z. They need to be seeing me do that too.
I can safely say that working with Nick Goellner, every single day I learned something new, whether it be about ingredients or world history or ancient Sumeria and everything in between, you know. It's always fascinating how passionate he is about anything he chooses to dig into. What I love about him is there's nothing below him. If there's a job to be done, his leadership is that he will make sure it's done. He will show you how it's done right. And usually he's a little bit faster and more efficient at the same time, you know?
I had just come back from doing a stage in Japan. I was super motivated at Antler Room. I was like, man, like we're on a roll. COVID happens. We have to close. They don't, give us any money. We don't know if we're just going to go under. We got hyper focused. We're like, we're not going to lay off anybody. So we didn't. But it was like Herculean to make that happen. So hard. And then I remember somebody tried to steal my car and like crashed it. And then at our house, and then like a week later we got audited during COVID, and we're like, why are you auditing us during COVID? And then my dad gets diagnosed, and it was just like, how many more? So I always try to say, like, I don't want my life to be dictated by negative things that happen. Because like I see that too often where people are, it's like I had a chef that used to say back in New York, if I would get down or if I would like hyper focus on a mistake that I made, he would be like, yeah, you always remember when you just missed the subway. You never remember when you just make the subway. And I was like, shit, that's very true. So I don't know. It's like a lot of soul searching over the last couple of years. And it's, it's easy for me to look at it like through the lens of my own experience, but like it affected Leslie a lot. She was very close to my father. She's close to my family. She's close to me, like my moods affect her and vice versa. So like, I don't know. It was, to get this open at all was a huge thing because for several years I was like, I'm just going to quit. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I started to view the restaurant as taking away from what was really important in life. And it's just now recently that I've started to enjoy cooking again. For several years there, I was doing it because I had to, which sucks. Because that's not at all why I started the first restaurant. But I got to a certain point where I was like, would wake up, especially after the passing of my father, and just be like, I don't care about this at all. And it wasn't every day. Some days I would want to be there, right? But yeah, tough shit. I think that finally we got to the point a few years ago where we were like, well, we have to start trusting ourselves. We have to start trusting that we know what we're doing. We have to start actually having some self-esteem and being like, it's not smoke and mirrors. We actually do know how to run restaurants. We actually do make the right decisions more often than we make the wrong ones. And that's because of a lot of introspection and a lot of late night conversations. I think that the future for this place is in the hands of everyone that works here. It's not just in the hands of Leslie and I. It's a really cool thing to be a part of an organization where I don't feel like it collapses without me. It's really important that this place has such a strong culture at the end of the day that it doesn't need me all the time. Not because I don't want to be here, but because I want to make sure that this place doesn't rise or fall with what's going on in my life. I think that's the testament to a really great restaurant, when the owner can change and the chef can change and the service staff can change and the restaurant still feels the same. That's magic. And I feel like we're closer to making that happen here than I think that we've ever been.
You're sitting next to people. It's not, these individual tables. And so we met a couple, and so we started chatting with them. We all agreed that, like, hey, this food's incredible. This place is awesome. We love the Antler room. We're glad that he's opened up a second place. And we've actually hung out with that couple a couple of times after. So, like, unintentionally, it's created this community.
Ferran Adria once said, he was on the Charlie Rose show, and he said something that blew my mind a little bit. He was talking about how the kind of food that they did at El Bulli, his famous restaurant, was art. And the reason that food was so fascinating to him as a creative is that food of his level, not mine, but of his, is probably, if it's debatable, but it's probably the only art form that you need, otherwise you'll die. If you look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, a painting's not on there, even though a painting can move a human being very, very deeply, and it can change the course of their life seeing a beautiful piece of art. But food, you need food to live. People don't need food to be fancy. It's not necessary. So it's a very weird thing when people take food and they heighten it. There's a big argument about, do restaurants like this, or do especially restaurants like that, need to exist? Isn't this just a meaningless exercise that these chefs are doing? Like, why can't food just be honest and earnest and nurturing? Well, it can be, and it should be. It also is fascinating and important that gastronomy moves forward.
We never look at what we're doing as though we've succeeded. We look at it as we're still striving to keep going. We never want to be stagnant. We are always pushing ourselves.
They really paved the road for restaurants like ours that want to be different and unique, that want to set the tone for the direction that Kansas City is moving in for these sort of unique, small, family-owned restaurants. I am so grateful for what they've done. They've been around for, I want to say, maybe 8 or 9 years. I've been following them since the beginning, and I'm really proud to see what they've done for Kansas City.
I have a feeling they're living out their dreams and, cooking the kind of food that they want to, they're into, and it shows. It definitely does.
For them to bring something like that here in Kansas City, I think more people actually should try that out, and I think you should be more open to experience that. And the milk bread, that Japanese milk bread, I'm in love with it.
I think what I love so much about Anjin and what Nick's done is he has what I call a point of view. Like, most restaurants don't have a point of view. A lot of chefs are cooking for Instagram, they're cooking for followers, they're cooking for, I get it, to make money and that type of stuff. You can tell that the staff there, though, again, every dish is thoughtfully done, and you can really taste his story through it. Like, you can taste, like, his journey through the food. And so, in some ways it's difficult, but I'm sure in some ways it was something that he felt he had to do. He had to get this out. And I'm glad he did, because we as guests get to reap the benefits from that, so.